how to fucking start a project that you actually wanted to start 700 years ago. With that being said, hello and welcome back to the next episode of the Self-Development with Tactics fucking podcast. And I may have just looked like a fucking dumbass motherfucker with my t-shirt actually stuck into my my shorts. But yeah, hello and welcome back to the next episode of the Self-Development with Tactics podcast. And I'm so fucking pumped to be here again. It's every time. It is actually something that I'm looking forward to, even though it is something to do. Like, I'm coming home, I'm eating and, taking a shower, and then I'm recording. This is actually the first thing that I'm doing besides the things that I just have to do. This is not something that I have to do, but it is something that I like to do, and this is something that I want to do. And this is something that, which is just fun for me, especially these long-term videos. I've just really seen that I deeply like, being on YouTube and being, or producing these videos, because it's not like on like Snapchat or Instagram and all these other platforms where you can actually only upload 60-second videos or 50-second videos or even 10 minutes. Still 10 minutes for me are way too short. It still depends on the video that I'm going to make and, a lot of other things, but it is like, okay, I want to talk. I want to spread the things that are in my fucking head because I can and because we all can. And pretty much one of the reasons why I do not understand that, so quite few people actually sharing what they are thinking. Like, it's so easy, you could do a podcast, which is incredible. Like, you do not even have to show your fucking face. You maybe do just have to be a little bit like energetic and a little bit like, likable, and people should like, listening to you. And I guess, it depends on the topic, but it's pretty easy. Everybody could do it. Especially if you're doing it with a friend. Like, it's so much fun, and you're just, both having so much fun. You're just strengthening your connection and or your relationship, and you're bringing fun to the people and to yourself. And it's a viable just market, and you can just make your living out of it, which is just great. Doing something your whole life long is just incredible great, and that you like, or for the first, 10, 15 years, unless you become just really bored about it or of it. But to not rage around any longer, we are actually going to, something that I thought about. As you can see, I am now again on the ideas.ted.com website, which is basically a website about TED Talks, I would say. It's just a short form article form of the TED Talks, which are in general pretty long. And this is one of the reasons why I really like this format, and I really like the way that they did it. There are only just a few paragraphs with the most important insights of a certain video, and or just a quick introduction for a certain video, which is also enough for me, because it gives me enough to talk about, enough to read about, without being too much, like without being just way too much, so that it would actually be like, kind of poisoning or toxic for the episode itself. Like, too much talking and too much reading, actually only too much reading, isn't just, that well, at least at my point of view. And this was actually something that I thought about while I was just, drying me. Are you drying you up? Can you say that? Yeah, never mind. So with the towel and whatsoever, just, doing my hair, and, after the shower quite, you basically know what I fucking mean. It's not like you're from another moon, another star, another planet. I guess you know what I mean, but the thing is, who actually judges what I'm putting out there? Like, if it is fun for me, and if I like it, and if it's just bringing a lot of value to me, which is actually the case, why wouldn't I do it? Just, wouldn't I do it because I think that just, reading these things and reading even just those long book summaries, especially on the alancheng.com website, only because it is just not good if I'm just reading all the time, and if it's just a little bit hectical and, whatsoever, or stressful to listen to maybe, is this then bad? Only because I think it is? I guess not. Because the thing is, I do not decide. The people who are actually deciding, or the person who is deciding, is you. You are basically deciding whether this is a good episode or this is a bad episode. And if the majority says, okay, this was a bad episode because the reading was shit and you just, were reading way too much, then I wouldn't do so any longer. Yeah. But as you can see in the background, we are going to talk about want to make something but have no idea where to begin, ? Here's some inspiration from Adam Savage. And if you do not know Adam Savage, he's actually one of the, is it a commentator? Was he a showman? Yeah, so basically he crafted a lot of things for a show, which is and was, I think it was called, because it's not on air any longer, I guess. It is still on air, but there are, no new just episodes produced or something. But yeah, he is from the Mythbusters, which is actually, or it was actually all about just, proving or quite validating or even not experiments or things that people just thought about were actually true, like myths and whatsoever. It was just interesting and yeah, I guess I just should start. Ooh. The good thing is, something you have always to look out for is whether you actually put on your I plug my my electricity supply thing. Fuck. I'm gonna, a little bit. Not important. So, now basically, the thing that I put my plug-in thing in, which is powering my fucking MacBook, and there's also some on and off button, and the problem is, if you're not just, turning it on, there is no just electricity going through this whole thing. Which means, okay, I'm also not loading or charging up actually my PC, which is bad. But yeah, actually wasted 7 minutes, and this is actually why I like long-term video formats. So, special effects designer and Mythbuster Adam Savage offers a call to action and vision map to every would-be maker and dreamer out there. So, how do I get started? Across 4 decades of making, which is incredibly long, I'm asked this question more than any other. At an individual project level, my answer is, well, it depends on unique concerns like the mental physics of inertia, momentum, structural cohesion, friction, fracture, and so on. But most of the time, the question really begins asked is, how do I get started when I do not even know what to make? And I've come to believe the answer resides in the first law of thermodynamics. An object at rest tends to stay at rest unless acted upon by an outside force. Which basically means, let's get an example. I do have this pen here. I still think it's clear for most of the people, but I'm still gonna explain it because I know what it's all about. I have a pen. If I'm just, if I'm just holding this pen in my fucking hands, just like this, there is no force. There is no outside force that's actually moving it, and therefore it's not moving. It's just not moving. But if I'm just, kind of moving my arm or something, it will fall off, or it will just move, or something else. And or if I just, let it drop, the same thing would actually be with gravity, I guess. Gravity is also moving it, or it is also an outside force, which, lets it move. If there was no gravity, it would still move. Yeah, never mind. But if I'm touching it or something, it is definitely moving, and if I'm not touching it, it is not moving. Yeah. Blah, 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 blah. So in other words, to get started, you need to become the outside force which starts the mental and physical ball rolling. You need to overcome the inertia of inaction and indecision and begin developing some creative momentum. Just I'm actually sorry for not showing you, but just begin, like, I guess. And it may only be my opinion. And I still think that Gary Vee was also talking about it, but I really believe that actually starting something is the best way to actually learn it. Like, I still believe, and I still also think that actually having just the main basics and the really just basics for a certain thing is just important. It is really important because you can't start, without actually knowing where to start. Like, yeah, you could definitely make some exercises, or you could definitely read some things, and or just figure out what you just are willing to do. The thing there is, at my point of view, it is always great to have some theoretic wisdom or theoretic knowledge about the certain thing that you're willing to do before you're actually starting to do it. I do really believe that it is important, but the thing is, you just have to act on it. You just have to use this knowledge, and you just have to really do something. It's not quite about, like, this is something that bothers me about the whole book thing, to one degree. Like, all these people who are just telling you, okay, you have to read this book, and you have to read this book, and that book, and, the other book, so that you're actually getting successful. The problem there is, okay, I could read every fucking single book outside there, but I wouldn't still be successful. Because the thing is, I do just have to take action. It is what it is. Like, you won't have a business if you do not take action. You won't just, get smarter if you do not take the action of learning something. And so on and so on and so on. And if you're not using your knowledge, and knowledge is actually only potential power, as I, always quote from Tony Robbins actually, then it is sad and it is bad, because you won't use the knowledge and you won't use the things that you could use. So basically it was just unnecessary that you read all the books if you're not acting on them. But you just really have to do something. But the initial point that I wanted to make was actually that I think that actually by doing things, you can really, 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 really understand these things and learn a lot about these things, whether it be design, and I think especially certain things like design, and I think I'm gonna stay with design. So there are way more things that I do think that are quite the same thing, but I do just can't talk about design and whatsoever. So the thing with design is there's actually some theoretical knowledge that you have to some degree, definitely. I do think, but there are a lot of problems, and there are also a lot of problems that you will just only encounter if you're doing something. Like, if you're only going through theoretical stuff, then you might not come to the conclusion, okay, like your PC could fucking die, or the programs, aren't just doing anything, so they are not just working or something else, or you're just having a certain design problem and you do not know because you don't know what to do. It could, definitely be because it's not a science, it's an art, but there are certain moments and certain things that you will only encounter if you're acting on something. This is just something that I've quite seen, quite learned, quite understood, over the past few years actually. So I've rarely had an issue getting moving, and I have a pretty easy time coming up with ideas. This might make me unique in some maker circles, and infuriating, whatever infuriating means. It means also infuriating. Like, okay, I understand it. Which makes, it's not about, making somebody crazy, but letting somebody drive. Like, drive really, really hard in terms of, okay, the money is driving me, not like I'm driving a fucking car. Like, yeah. But I assure you, this has less to do with any special skill and more to do with one specific trait: obsession. And obsession is one particular thing that I just really think is amazing. It really is amazing, because what you can see with so many successful people is that they're obsessed with what they're doing. They're really obsessed. Whether it be Jeff Bezos, which is one of the most, I think, one of the best examples you could do or you could show, then Elon Musk, only having 100-hour weeks. It's just insane. And he's still doing it because he is so obsessed with his kind of goal that he's willing to make or willing to get to. Like with Tesla actually, and with SpaceX, both are really incredibly high valued companies on the fucking world, and he's just a really high valued person himself as well, and he's just so obsessed with what he's doing. It really is incredible. I can't just say any different. Is it better like this? Yeah, maybe. Anybody else that is pretty obsessed? I would even say Gary Vee. The only thing that I have to say is that he's actually getting goosebumps when somebody is saying something that he thinks is either so empathetic or nice or something that's so just great. He gets funky goosebumps in certain times or in certain situations where nobody else that I would ever know would get fucking goosebumps. It's not about being cold. It's not about being or having any anxiety or something. I think it's just obsession. So obsession is the gravity of making. It moves things, binds them together, and gives them structure. Bringing anything into the world requires at least a little helping of obsession. Obsession is the gravity of making. It moves things, binds them together, and gives them structure. Passion, in brackets, the good side of obsession, can create great things like ideas. But if it comes too singular of a fixation, the bad side of obsession, obsession, it can be destructive, which results you'll experience depends largely on how you discover, engage with, and manage your obsessions. I've always been a curious person. Countless things have captured my attention, including history, science fiction, film, the architecture of public spaces, monsters, mechanical computers, glue, Legos, curse words. Fuck yeah. No, but just really interesting that, you could be obsessed about cursed words or curse words, magic, storytelling, Star Wars, and on and on. Thankfully, I had early support from my parents who encouraged my natural interests. My dad was an artist and my mom was a psychotherapist. If I was curious about something, they gave me permission to explore. When I didn't know how, they made the tools of exploration available. But they didn't want me pursuing every new, shiny thing simply because it was novel. They felt it was more beneficial for me to pay close attention to the things I actually liked that made me feel something. They knew that that if I let those feelings guide me, I would be more likely to do something with the fruits of that exploration, which is totally true. And I think it's the same thing with success as well. The good thing is, which I've been talking about actually quite often, I guess, is that all the things that I'm reading and all the things that you are just hearing as well, or that you're reading as well, are really contributing your general knowledge. Like, I can use this knowledge to actually talk about being successful, like I'm doing right now. I could use this knowledge to get into a completely different area of life, of the markets, of everything quite, I could do this. I could really do this. Like, it is just actually something that I've seen, that a lot of knowledge just really contributes other knowledge you're having. So basically, what I quite thought of is, learning is actually exponential, and knowledge is also exponential, because if you know this, then you know that. And if you know that, then the abilities are quite high that you're also knowing that, because this builds on the other thing, and then it rises and rises and rises and rises. And it seems to be, at least for me, and I would be just really interesting what you're thinking about it, I just really think that it is actually exponential. It's not something like linear that is going up and up and up and up. I do think that to some degree, even though, as I'm thinking about it, it could also be linear, but somehow, I don't know why, it kind of feels for me to be actually like exponential. Like, the more you know, the more you know. Quite. Yeah, I guess. Woo. Nevertheless, which is actually a wrong word to use in this context. So, never mind. Emotional self-awareness, which is incredibly important, is a tall talk a tall task for a kid. Hell, it is tough when you're an adult. The pubescent, it is pubescent, which is relating to or denoting a person at or approaching the age of puberty. A gang of pubescent. Oh, I see. So the pubescent teen me had no idea how to describe what Star Wars or science fiction made me feel, so I kept my enthusiasms and feelings to myself. But in keeping my feelings secret, I did not bottle them up and extinguish them, as can be the case. Instead, I let them multiply inside me until they were all I could think about. So over the years, which seems to be a quote, by the way, over the years I have lost count of how many people have come up to me and admitted to their own curiosity about something I have done or a hobby I pursue. Secret thrills can come from anywhere and anything at any time. It might be the villain's weapon in a Bond film you're watching for the 20th time, or the unique patina created by thousands of hands over decades on a bronze train station railing. If you're paying attention, those things will catch your eye, and if you let them, they will engage your mind. Once in a while, they will thrill you enough to feed a desire to go deeper into that thing, to know more about it, and possibly to possess and do something with it. Obsessions like these are where ideas come from. Actually true. It's actually quite true that, I also get design ideas through architecture, through other things that I've learned, through toys, quite from everywhere. Like if I'm sorry. I hope there was no bing and bang and boom through the whole fucking episode. To really hope. Fuck. Nevertheless, I really get just my inspiration from everywhere. Like, if it is architecture, if it is just something that I've learned in school, if it is this pen because I really like the lines there that I could actually use for the post that I'm doing afterwards. They're just a lot of things. And you really just have to take attention. You have to take more attention on the things on everything. And I think it would also contribute you being more present. And I do think this is something like just a really trendy word to say, okay, are you present? Yeah, I'm present today. Or some shit like this. But it is actually something that I think is important, to actually step back once at a time, or once in a while actually, and just look at your life and look at what you're doing, and just, pretty much look at the situation from a quite outside standpoint of view, and see and kind of evaluate what you're doing. Like, the last time I did, where this kind of thing, this kind of, stepping back a little bit actually flashed me, was when I was in a train. And I was just, looking out of the window and just, watching the mountains going by, and, all these beautiful things. And I don't know what I thought about, but I think something grabbed my attention. I do really think the landscape. It is often like I seem to be very visual. Like, still music. Music is very important for me, and I really love music. But if I'm seeing something beautiful, it is just kind of shocking me in a good way. It is a really good way, whether it be just a really beautiful church, whether it be a new design that I really like. Most of the time, though, it is architecture that I'm just really fascinated by, because, you can feel it, you can see it. If you're just in a so big church and you're seeing all these just patterns and all these just paintings that were actually made for this certain place, it's just amazing to have just, a church that is quite, 50 meters high, and inside of it is actually also just 30 or 40 meters, which is actually 131 feet quite, or inches. No, not actually inches. Or actually 43 yards. 40 yards, 43 yards, something like this. Just incredibly high. It's just amazing for me. It's just something that I really see, and this just really gets me back to where I am. It sometimes really lets me, or I'm consciously doing it. This could also be the case. Like, if I'm really thinking about it and thinking about my life and seeing like, okay, what am I actually doing right now? And the funny thing is, actually a teacher of mine actually talked about a certain thing today. And it was amazing. I was like, okay, is he really gonna say this right now? And then he said it, and then I was like, okay, he said it, obviously. And but it was amazing that you can see, okay, other people are thinking the same thing but the funny thing is that I've quite often thought about if he's just somehow knowledgeable in this certain area, so in psychology or maybe in life even. So because he was talking about something else another time, which I unfortunately do not remember. But let's see if there's something coming up that's pretty nice as well. So in my experience, when you follow that secret thrill, ideas pop up from the woodwork as the force of your interest pulls you down the rabbit hole. And yet, so few of us give the thrill much attention. We dismiss it as an indulgence or distraction. There's almost a quiet shame in it, which is a big part of the reason why that secret thrill always remains so secret for so many. Over the years, I have lost count of how many people have come up to me and quietly, almost reluctantly, admitted to their own curiosity about something I've done or a hobby I pursue. There is a belief among many that to jump with both feet into something like that is to play hooky from the important details of life. But I would argue that the pursuits are the important parts of life. They are passions. They have purpose, and I have learned to pay a genuine respect and put our energy into places that can serve us and give us joy. Incredible words, just like especially the joy thing, which is actually rad as well. Maybe it's just because there is also a link to attach to it or something. Is it? Yeah, it is. But yeah, never mind. I still think working on something that you really like. By the way, best example, I wouldn't be here. I really wouldn't be here if I wouldn't like it. If I really would hate making these videos. If I really would hate just actually uploading it afterwards and just, preparing everything. Doing the podcast, preparing the podcast. Doing all the posts that I'm doing, 8 fucking posts a day. If I wouldn't like it, or if I wouldn't see any purpose in it, because purpose is also another just great factor for why I think people will or will not be happy with what they're doing in their life, in terms of work and other things, but especially work, in terms of purpose. But I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't actually be here. I would never be here if I would really hate it. If it would, actually, it's just the truth. If I would really hate it, I guess I wouldn't have started it. And I hope I wouldn't. I really hope. And I sometimes had my doubts, to be really honest. I sometimes thought like, is this the right thing to do? Is this the right thing for me to do? Is this the right thing to just, give to other people? Is this the best just, way I can use my time? Or could I do something better? And I also thought, is it actually fun for me? Because sometimes there are episodes that are not doing so well or that are not going so well. Like, me with speaking. Like, it could be great. It could be just, really bullshitty and really shitty. But yeah, like, this is life. There's bad things and there's good things. I do hope the light is a little bit better. It's quite cold, to be honest, but you can see me, I guess, a little bit better. Even though this is just really shitty setup, but yeah. I actually thought that I would go through the whole one. But maybe I could. Can I? Maybe I can. So each of us has a unique way we share our stories. And we express them differently. So how does your brain work? I've been fortunate in that I've been able to follow my secret thrills into adulthood and into professional success. But even if I hadn't been able to do that for a living, I would still constantly make stuff. This stands in stark contrast to other fleeting interests that I used to pursue, like juggling or dramatic performance, which I had given up on once I got a notch better than mediocre. With those, I never knew how to push past the point of proficiency and didn't care enough to find out. I was the patron saint of mediocrity plus one. So when I realized that I could pursue and maybe reach real excellence at a high level of making, that's when I dove in head first. And that pursuit has improved my ability to acquire other skills. It also made me more comfortable with acknowledging my limits. For instance, I would love to be a writer of screenplays. A screenwriter's way of seeing is a special thing. They have a unique type of brain, one that filters the world entirely through narrative and becomes a highly tuned machine of character construction, world building, and plot layering. But I've learned that that's not how my brain works. I don't think in arcs or twisting plots. When I tell people, they often say, "You just need to come up with a good idea, and then you'll be off and running. No problem." Except they are missing the point. I am okay with how my brain works. I don't need to write screenplays. Something very important. I'm just generally, I'm sorry for actually just reading that so fucked up. I hope you've just read it as well and understood everything. If you're on a YouTube video, if you're on a podcast, I would really like you to get back a few seconds and rehear it actually, because it is very important for me. Because what he basically is saying that he would like to be just a screenwriter. He would really like to be it. But the thing is, it's not him. It is something that I've been talking about as well. Thinking also about. If I'm really an entrepreneur, if I'm really that type of person that is really able to have his own business or their own business, am I really this kind of person? I know me, and you know yourself as well. You know your strengths and you know what you're not good at. And this is just being honest with yourself. It just really is. And he's honest with himself. He would like to be a screenwriter, but that is not, who he is. He is just building stuff. This is what this is how his brain is working. Not like a screenwriter's brain. Each of us ends up building different ways to interpret and recapitulate the world as we make our way through it. Each of us has a unique way we share our stories and we express them differently. So how does your brain work? What is your secret thrill, and how do you process your world? I am a maker by trade and a storyteller by temperament. Never mind, you know what I mean. But first I see myself as a permission machine. In the beginning of his essay, Self-Reliance, Ralph Waldo Emerson writes, to believe your own thought, to believe that what is true for you in your private heart is true for all men, that is genius. That essay and phrase hit me hard in the solar plexus when I first heard it at 18, and it continues today. The deepest truths about your experience are universal truths that connect each of us to each other and to the world around us. I have found it to be the key that unlocks those chains of shame and self-doubt. It gives you the room to fly your freak flag and the mental space to pay attention to the things that you're interested in. It is the permission that you are looking for, and I wish to offer you to follow those peculiar aspects of the world that give you a secret thrill. For the creator within all of us, this is the pathway to ideas and creation. And I would really like to end the episode there. I'm not willing to go through the whole one. I'm gonna do it. I'm really gonna do it because there's just So I just have to go through it. So we all have brains and the ability to do remarkable things with them, but what we do with them is up to each of us. Every single one of us is trying to make sense of the world, our places in it, and how everything fits together. We learn as much about ourselves and our surroundings from the stories we choose to tell as from the stories that others tell us. Sure, sometimes the source of our own stories can be slightly embarrassing. I recognize cosplay, the practice of dressing up as favorite characters from movies, fiction, and anime, as well as computer games actually, and which is foremost among my passion for making stuff. It's not exactly the most useful and notable endeavor in the world. I don't delude myself into thinking that by doing it, I am necessarily making the world a better place. However, in paying attention to what engages me and sharing with others what happens when I do, what I am doing is producing things that might spark ideas or inspiration for others, just as others' work can spark ideas for me. How I've come up with my stories and how I get ideas for what to make often come from my love of movies. But your ideas can come from anywhere. Being attuned to those pings of interest is the duty of creator. Whether you're a scientist coming up with a hypothesis, an artist with a blank canvas in front of you, or a troubadour with a quiet guitar in your hands. We all have brains and the ability to do remarkable things with them, but what we do with them is up to each of us. Beyond that, there is no magic formula for getting started, I promise. It merely requires that you participate in the world, or in your world, and that you pay attention to what interests you, that you follow the thrills they produce, and that you're never afraid to go deep on them, to obsess over them, to dig through the bottom of the rabbit hole if necessary, and to find that great idea which has been waiting there for you all along. And that's it. That's quite it. I'm quite sorry that I'm actually not going to say quite anything about it. I think I'm gonna just let it be, this way, and I do just really think that he's just telling the truth. He's just telling really truthful and really important words. There's quite nothing to add from my side. I just really think it's incredible. It's just great. It really is. And with that being said, I wish you the best health, wealth, happiness, and success. I hope you see you the next time, actually tomorrow. I love you, and please remember how you're gonna be remembered. So please give back something to the world or to the people, whether it be a smile or whether it be just some charity work or charity money. You decide, because you have a brain.